Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes on this edition of Illinois Rising. And this week, the Chicago Tribune somehow got its hands on some FBI tapes from their investigation, surveillance of former governor, now imprisoned former governor, and going to be imprisoned former governor for some time yet to be, Rod Blagojevich. This goes back to 2008. And you'll remember, Pat, that the FBI wouldn't release, and there was no judicial order to release. In fact, I think that the tapes are largely under seal, other than what was played in open court, which is a problem. But somebody leaked to the Tribune some of the surveillance that the FBI had, including a conversation between J.B. Pritzker, now a Democrat candidate for governor. I'm sure you've seen his commercials, spending millions of dollars on commercials to introduce himself to the state. Conversation between J.B. and Rod Blagojevich. J.B. was a big benefactor of Rod Blagojevich, $100,000 in donations to his reelection campaign. Big benefactor to Mike Madigan as well as J.B. Pritzker. But now, as a gubernatorial candidate, he wants to be the outsider, businessman, independent of the system, who's going to, shake up Springfield and turn around Illinois, to borrow from another outsider billionaire who currently is the governor. And this was the exchange between J.B. and Rod Blagojevich on J.B.'s political future, because you'll remember Pritzker 20 years ago ran for Congress in the seat that was vacated by Sid Yates. He retired, then subsequently died. Then I think that's right. I don't think he died in office. But anyway, regardless, following Sid Yates, it was primary to succeed him. Jan Schakowsky won that primary. J.B. Pritzker was one of the other candidates, as was then State Senator Howie Carroll. So he's always had political ambition. He communicates that to Blagojevich. And then they're kicking around things like that effing golden Senate seat. And if that doesn't work, then, I don't know, maybe Attorney General, maybe State Treasurer, a lot of options.
If the Senate thing ever happened for you, my strong recommendation would be you got to do it and say you're running again. There'd be no putting a guy like you there for just 2 years. I don't know. I mean,
I was thinking about the political problem, and the only way to make the political problem go away in that scenario would be that I can think of is to say he's not running for re-election, which doesn't do anybody any good. So it's probably not a good scenario.
No.
The treasurer thing's a different thing.
Yeah. You did. This is a good option. Keep going. Talk to me.
Putting a business person in a business person's job.
Yep.
I think I would be able to get people like Bill Brodsky at the CBOE and people like Terry Duffy at the, at the Merck to sort of stand up independently and say, we're suggesting to the governor that this is a good idea. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Listen, I think it's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's exciting to hear Rod Blagojevich's voice after these many years. So how do you think that impacts JB's campaign?
First of all, Dan, that little, begging for a spot is so pathetic. It's just so pathetic, particularly for a guy that's got a couple of $1 billion. Go buy yourself the treasurer seat or at least try. I mean, it's really embarrassing to start. It's a problem for him in the governor's race. And the reason is all these problems individually, right? I didn't pay the right property taxes on my mansion I let get dilapidated, and I got a sweetheart deal from Barrios. That's one thing sitting out there, and it cuts to the property tax issue. And then this comes out, right? And then a narrative starts to build, right? The narrative is, this is a guy who's ambitious. He wants to hold public office so he can feel important. He's already got all the money he could ever spend in a lifetime. And the narrative is he's willing to be connected. He's a total insider. How much more of an insider can you be than you can call up the governor of the state and say, I don't want to be senator. I'd rather be treasurer, right? And then I can get the head of the Merck and the head of the CBOE and all these guys on board. It's the complete insider play. And so the narrative starts to build as to what he really is, as opposed to what he's presenting himself.
How much do you think this hurts, though? I mean, to be fair, Ronner was an outsider, wealthy businessman, too, who was not really an outsider. He was connected. He was a donor to Rahm Emanuel. He used connections, it appeared, to help get his kid into Peyton Prep. He knew all the players. He participated in the game. So how much does this really hurt JB in the final analysis?
So it hurts more than what you just said with respect to Ron, or none of those things impacted them, and perhaps they should have, because of the Blagojevich connection and because of sort of the taint around the effing golden statue and all this other kind of stuff. This is gold and everything else. So that's a big taint. And I think voters, it's one thing to say, I gave money to Blagojevich. They tried that with Tammy Duckworth, where she had been appointed by him to Veterans Affairs. But it's another thing when you're on an FBI tape and you're basically participating in some degree to the thing that got Blagojevich sent away to prison for 14 years. And that's present in everybody's mind. So I understand your point about these guys all to a certain extent being insiders. But this, to me, has a little bit different narrative capacity.